They handed me a cardboard box and 30 minutes to clear my desk. No ceremony, no explanation that made sense. Just a cold Tuesday morning and the end of everything I'd built. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 3 weeks to the day everything started crumbling. ## 3 weeks earlier. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and nervous energy. 14 of us sat around the mahogany table, laptops glowing, notebooks open to blank pages. I was in my usual spot by the window, half listening to quarterly projections when the door swung open. Owen Harper strode in like he owned the oxygen in the room. Designer suit, Italian shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and a smile that never reached his eyes. RCO stood up, clearing his throat with practiced enthusiasm. Team, I'd like you to meet Owen Harper, our new Vice President of Operations. Owen comes to us from the West Coast with an impressive track record in organizational restructuring. Restructuring. That word landed in my stomach like a stone. Owen shook hands around the table, grip firm and brief. When he reached me, his eyes barely registered my presence before moving on. Appreciate the opportunity, he said, voice smooth as polished marble. I've reviewed the preliminary reports and I'll be frank, there's significant room for optimization. Some processes here are outdated. Some roles appear redundant. We're going to trim the fat and focus on what actually drives revenue. If you're new here and enjoying these powerful stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Let me know in the comments what part of today's story touched you most. The room laughed nervously. I didn't. I'd seen this movie before. My name is Zoe Ellis and I'd spent the last 11 years building relationships this company didn't even know it needed. While others chased flashy deals and quarterly bonuses, I cultivated trust. Long-term partnerships. Accounts that renewed year after year because they weren't working with a company, they were working with me. But men like Owen don't see that kind of value. They see spreadsheets and org charts and people they can rearrange like furniture. After the meeting, I grabbed coffee with my colleague Natalie from finance. That guy gives me the creeps, she muttered, stirring sugar into her cup. Did you see the way he looked at the employee roster? Like he was deciding which pawns to sacrifice. He called us fat to trim, I said quietly. You're safe though, right? Your client retention numbers are insane. I wanted to believe her. But something cold had already settled into my bones. ## the erosion begins. Owen wasted no time making his presence felt. Within 5 days he'd restructured 3 departments, eliminated 2 management positions, and implemented a new accountability protocol that required daily progress reports. My first direct interaction with him came on a Thursday afternoon. I was finishing a call with Jonathan Reed, CEO of one of our anchor accounts, when Owen appeared at my desk. Zoe, right? He didn't wait for confirmation. I need your client files uploaded to the central database by end of day. Every contact, every conversation log, every contract detail. Most of that is already in the system, I said carefully. The relationship notes are in my private files, but nothing should be private. We need transparency and redundancy. If you were hit by a bus tomorrow, we'd need someone else to handle your accounts. The implication hung in the air between us. I'll get you what I can, I replied. He smiled without warmth. By 5 o'clock. That night I uploaded the bare minimum. Contact names, contract dates, renewal schedules. But the real substance, the personal notes about Jonathan's concerns about his board, the reminder that Catherine at Silverton Industries hated being called Kate, the knowledge that Raymond Frost would only take calls after 2 p.m. because of his dialysis schedule, that stayed with me. Call it instinct. Call it self-preservation. But something told me I'd need that information later. ## isolation. The exclusions started subtly. A leadership meeting I usually attended got rescheduled without me on the invite. A client strategy email chain that suddenly stopped including my name. Small things that could be explained away as oversights. Except they kept happening. Did the Monday sync get cancelled? I asked Natalie one morning. She glanced up from her screen, uncomfortable. No, it's still happening. Owen said he wanted to keep it to essential personnel only. His words, not mine. Essential personnel. I'd closed more deals in the past 2 years than half the sales team combined, but I wasn't essential. By week 2 of Owen's reign, the pattern became undeniable. My project assignments were quietly reassigned. My input in strategy sessions went unacknowledged. In one particularly painful meeting, I presented a proposal for expanding our partnership with Crestwood Analytics, a relationship I'd nurtured for 8 years, and Owen cut me off mid-sentence. Appreciate the history lesson, Zoe, but we're focused on forward momentum, not legacy maintenance. Let's table this and move on. The room went silent. Nobody made eye contact with me. That's when I understood. This wasn't about performance or value. This was about power. Owen needed to establish dominance, and that meant dismantling anything that existed before his arrival. Especially people who had influence he hadn't granted them. I was a threat simply by existing. ## the setup. The real blow came on a Wednesday. I arrived at my desk to find Cameron, a 23-year-old recent hire, sitting in the chair beside mine. "Morning," he said brightly. "Owen asked me to shadow you for a few weeks. Learn the ropes on your accounts." My chest tightened. He didn't mention that to me. Oh. Well, he said you'd be cool with it. Something about knowledge transfer and building redundancy. There was that word again. Redundancy. I forced a smile. Sure. Let's start with the client overview. For the next 2 days, I watched Cameron take notes on everything. My communication style, my client preferences, even the way I structured follow-up emails. He was eager and well-meaning, completely unaware he was being groomed as my replacement. On Friday, the knife twisted deeper. I got an email from Catherine Gaines at Silverton Industries. Subject: Change in communication? * Zoe, I received a call from someone named Cameron today asking about our contract renewal. Is everything okay? You've always handled our account personally. Should I be concerned? * My hands shook as I typed a response. * Catherine, no need to worry. Cameron is new to the team and still learning our processes. I'm still your primary contact and will remain so. I'll give you a call this afternoon to discuss the renewal details. * I hit send, then immediately forwarded the email to Owen with a single line. We need to discuss client communication protocols. His response came 90 seconds later. Handled. No need for discussion. Handled. As if an 8-year relationship with a 7-figure client was a line item he could check off. That evening I stayed late. The office emptied out around 6, leaving me alone with the hum of the ventilation system and the glow of my monitor. I opened a folder I'd been quietly maintaining for the past 18 months, a project I'd initially started as a client retention tool. I called it Sentinel. Sentinel was an automated monitoring system that tracked relationship health across every account I managed. It flagged communication gaps, noted changes in contact frequency, measured sentiment in client emails, and sent automated alerts when key relationship metrics dropped below certain thresholds. I'd built it during late nights and weekends, teaching myself Python and database management through online tutorials and trial and error. The company didn't know it existed. I'd never officially proposed it because I knew how corporate bureaucracy would strangle it. Endless approval chains, committee reviews, watered-down specifications. So I'd kept it private. A tool for me to do my job better. Now, looking at Owen's email, a different idea began forming. Sentinel tracked relationship health. But it also tracked relationship ownership. Every interaction, every call, every email. It logged who had actually built and maintained these partnerships. And if those relationships were suddenly transferred to someone new without proper transition, Sentinel would notice. More importantly, it could let the clients know. I stared at the screen for a long time. This wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about protection. About making sure that if Owen tried to erase my contributions, there would be evidence. Documentation. Proof. I modified the alert parameters. If a client's primary contact changed without a formal transition meeting, Sentinel would send an automated notification, not to the company but directly to the client. A simple message. * Your designated account manager has been changed. For continuity of service, please verify this change was communicated to you directly. * Professional. Neutral. Just enough to make clients ask questions. I saved the changes and shut down my computer. Walking to my car, I felt something shift inside me. Not quite hope, not quite anger. Something colder and more focused. If Owen wanted to make me redundant, he was going to learn exactly what redundant meant. # The axe falls. Monday morning started normal. I grabbed my usual coffee from the shop on the corner, rode the elevator to the 14th floor and settled into my desk. My calendar showed a 9 a.m. call with Jonathan Reed to finalize Q2 deliverables. At 8:47 a.m. I got a calendar invite. No subject line. Just, Owen Harper requests your presence. Conference room B9:00 a.m. My stomach dropped. I rescheduled Jonathan's call and walked to conference room B on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Owen was already inside, standing by the window with his back to the door. On the table sat a single manila folder. "Close the door," he said without turning around. I did. He turned and I saw it in his face before he spoke. The decision had already been made. This wasn't a conversation. It was an execution. "Zoe, I'll be direct. We're making organizational changes to improve efficiency and eliminate redundancies. After careful review, we've determined your position is no longer aligned with our strategic direction." The words hit me like physical blows. "You're firing me. We're restructuring. Your role will be distributed among existing team members who can handle multiple functions." My role. My voice cracked. I manage 84% of our enterprise accounts. Those relationships took years to build. Relationships are company assets, not personal property. He slid the folder across the table. "Your termination is effective immediately. Final paycheck will be processed within 72 hours. You have 30 minutes to collect personal items. IT will escort you out." This is insane. You've been here 3 weeks. You don't even know what I do. I know what the numbers show. And the numbers indicate we can maintain these accounts with lower overhead. Lower overhead. That's what 11 years of work had been reduced to. "You're making a mistake," I said quietly. Owen's smile returned, that cold, practiced expression that probably worked on his golf buddies and board members. "I've made these decisions hundreds of times, Zoe. Trust me, I know what I'm doing." I stood there for a moment, absorbing the finality of it. There would be no appeal, no reconsideration, no chance to prove my value. In Owen's world, I was already erased. "Can I make my calls?" I asked. "Tell my clients directly?" "Not necessary. We'll handle all client communications internally. Cameron will be taking over your accounts." Cameron. The kid who'd been shadowing me for less than a week. Who didn't know that Catherine hated speakerphones, or that Raymond needed detailed agendas sent 48 hours in advance. Or that Jonathan's CFO was actually the decision-maker despite Jonathan having the CEO title. "You really don't understand what you're losing," I said. "I understand perfectly. Now if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do." Dismissed. Erased. Relegated to the past tense. I picked up the folder and walked out with whatever dignity I could salvage. Hashtag the walkout. The cardboard box was waiting at my desk. Standard issue, the kind they probably ordered in bulk for moments like this. I loaded it mechanically. A framed photo of my sister and me at the Grand Canyon. A coffee mug from a client appreciation gift. 3 years of desk calendar planners I'd probably never look at again. Cameron hovered nearby, awkward and guilty. "Hey, I just want you to know I didn't." "It's fine," I cut him off. Not angry at him. He was just a piece on Owen's board. Natalie appeared, her eyes red. "This is so wrong." "It's corporate," I said simply. "Tell Jonathan Reed that the implementation timeline we discussed needs his final approval by Thursday, or it'll miss the compliance window. Tell Catherine that her account audit is due next month, and she needs to schedule that with legal at least 3 weeks ahead. Tell Raymond." Zoe. The IT guy materialized beside me. Young, apologetic, doing a job he clearly hated. "We need to go." I closed the box. Picked it up. Looked around at the desk that had been my space for over a decade. At the view of the city I'd watched change through promotions and projects and endless early mornings. The walk to the elevator felt like a funeral procession. People I'd worked with for years suddenly found their keyboards fascinating. Nobody met my eyes except Natalie, who mouthed "I'm sorry" as I passed. Owen was nowhere to be seen. Of course not. Men like him never watched the damage they caused. In the elevator, the IT guy made small talk about the weather. I nodded without hearing him. My mind was already 3 steps ahead, calculating, planning, preparing for what came next. They thought they were cutting dead weight. They had no idea they'd just cut their own lifeline. The lobby doors opened onto a sunny Tuesday morning. The kind of day that should have been filled with client meetings and coffee runs and the comfortable rhythm of work I was good at. Instead, I was unemployed, carrying a box of 11 years in my arms. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just walked to my car, loaded the box in the trunk, and sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the Sentinel app. The system was running smoothly, monitoring all 84 accounts I'd built, watching for exactly the disruption that was about to happen. I didn't activate anything. I didn't send alerts or trigger protocols. I just watched the dashboard, waiting for the inevitable. Because Owen had made one critical miscalculation. He thought the relationships belonged to the company. He thought contracts and letterhead meant more than trust. He was about to learn differently. I started the car and drove home, and for the first time in 3 weeks I felt something other than fear. I felt ready. Day 1. Silence. The first day after termination is strange. You wake up at your usual time out of habit, then remember you have nowhere to go. The structure that defined your days has vanished, leaving a void that feels both terrifying and oddly liberating. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, watching Sentinel's dashboard populate with morning data. The system logged every email sent, every call made, every interaction between my former company and the clients I'd spent years cultivating. By noon, Cameron had reached out to 15 accounts. His emails were template perfect and personality free. Dear Mr. Reed, I'm writing to introduce myself as your new primary contact for all account management needs. I look forward to continuing the excellent relationship you've had with our organization. Generic. Corporate. Completely missing the fact that Jonathan preferred phone calls to email and hated being called Mr. Reed by anyone except his mother-in-law. I watched the data scroll past, resisting the urge to intervene. Not yet. Patience was part of the strategy. No calls came. No texts. Nobody from the company reached out to ask for transition notes or client insights or any of the institutional knowledge that lived in my head. They really thought it would be that simple. Reassign the accounts, keep the revenue, move forward without me. By evening, Sentinel logged the first concerning data point. Catherine from Silverton Industries had received Cameron's introduction email and hadn't responded. Catherine, who typically replied to every message within 2 hours during business hours. The silence was louder than any complaint. Day 2. First cracks. Wednesday morning brought the first real sign of trouble. Sentinel flagged an anomaly at 9:14 a.m. Jonathan Reed's assistant had called the main company line 3 times, each call lasting less than 60 seconds before disconnecting. Translation: she was being transferred around, unable to reach the right person. At 10:32 a.m., Sentinel captured an email from Jonathan to the general inquiries address. I've been trying to reach Zoe Ellis for 2 days regarding our implementation timeline. I've been told she's unavailable, but I haven't received any explanation or alternative contact. This is unacceptable for a partnership of our scale. Please have someone from senior leadership contact me directly within 24 hours. I read it twice, feeling a grim satisfaction mixed with genuine concern for Jonathan. He didn't deserve to be caught in this mess. None of them did. That afternoon, more signals emerged. Raymond Frost's office sent a formal letter requesting confirmation of account transition protocols. Silverton Industries put their pending contract renewal on hold pending clarification of service continuity. 3 more accounts flagged by evening, all with similar concerns. All wondering where I'd gone and why nobody had bothered to tell them. Sentinel's automated alert system activated at 11:47 p.m. 8 clients had experienced primary contact changes without documented transition meetings. The system did exactly what I'd programmed it to do. 8 carefully worded emails went out. This is an automated notification from your account monitoring system. Recent activity indicates your primary account manager has changed. For continuity of service and relationship integrity, please verify this transition was communicated to you directly by senior leadership. Professional. Factual. Just enough to make anyone pause and ask questions. I closed my laptop and went to bed, knowing tomorrow would be very different. Day 3. The unraveling. I woke to 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. Not to me, I was still persona non grata. But Sentinel's monitoring showed the company's phone system lighting up like a Christmas tree. Clients were calling, demanding explanations, asking for me specifically. At 8:03 a.m. Jonathan Reed sent an email that would become the inflection point. He didn't send it to Cameron or to the general inquiries address. He sent it to the CEO, CCing every executive in the company directory he could find. Subject: Immediate clarification required, Zoe Ellis. I received an automated alert last night indicating our account manager had been changed without notification. I've since learned that Zoe Ellis, who has personally managed our $8.7 million partnership for 9 years, is no longer with your company. This is the first I'm hearing of it. Zoe didn't transition our account. She didn't brief her replacement. She apparently wasn't even allowed to say goodbye. I need someone to explain to me why I should continue doing business with an organization that treats both their employees and client relationships with such disregard. You have 48 hours to provide a satisfactory explanation or I'm initiating our contract termination clause. Asterisk. I read it 3 times, chest tight with vindication and gratitude. Jonathan understood. He got it. But he wasn't alone. By 10 a.m., similar messages had arrived from 6 other major accounts. Catherine Gaines was particularly blunt. Asterisk, who makes a decision to remove a senior account manager without informing the accounts she manages? This isn't just poor communication, it's professional negligence. Consider our renewal on indefinite hold. Asterisk. The dam had broken. Hashtag day 4, emergency mode. Thursday morning, Sentinel showed me something I hadn't expected. Owen had called an emergency leadership meeting at 7 a.m. The meeting ran for 3 hours. By the time it ended, 2 things had happened. First, Cameron had been pulled from account management entirely. The poor kid had been thrown into waters way over his head and was drowning. Second, Owen had drafted a company-wide memo attempting damage control. I received a forwarded copy from Natalie, who was apparently still willing to risk her job to keep me informed. To all staff from Owen Harper recent client communication concerns. Asterisk, some clients have expressed confusion regarding recent personnel changes. This is a normal part of organizational evolution. All account transitions are being handled with appropriate professional protocols. Any concerns should be directed to department heads for immediate resolution. Asterisk. Our commitment to client satisfaction remains unwavering. The memo was corporate speak for, we're panicking but pretending everything is fine. It wasn't fine. By noon, 3 clients had formally suspended their contracts pending resolution. 5 more had demanded in-person meetings with senior leadership. And Jonathan Reed had done something I didn't anticipate. He'd contacted other clients directly. Apparently my accounts knew each other. They attended the same industry conferences, sat on the same boards, belonged to the same professional networks. When Jonathan started asking around about their experiences with the company post-Zoe, a pattern emerged. Nobody was happy. Everyone felt blindsided. All of them were reconsidering their partnerships. That afternoon my phone rang. Unknown number. Zoe Ellis? The voice was professional, female, unfamiliar. Speaking. My name is Adrian Cross. I'm calling on behalf of Jonathan Reed, Catherine Gaines, and several other executives who've worked with you. They've asked me to reach out regarding a potential opportunity. Do you have time to talk? I sat down slowly. I'm listening. Hashtag the offer. Adrian Cross turned out to be a corporate attorney specializing in partnership structures. Over the next 45 minutes she laid out a proposal that made my head spin. 8 of my former clients, the biggest accounts I'd managed, had decided they were done with my old company. But they didn't want to lose me. So they'd pooled resources to create something new. They're prepared to fund a new consulting firm, Adrian explained. You'd be the founder and CEO. They'd be your first clients, guaranteed contracts for a minimum of 3 years. Initial operating budget of $2.3 million. You'd have complete autonomy over how you build the company, who you hire, how you structure services. I couldn't speak for a moment. Why? Finally asked. Because they trust you. Because you spent years proving you prioritized their needs over corporate politics. And because they watched you get discarded like yesterday's news despite being the glue holding everything together. They want to work with you, Zoe. Not with some interchangeable account manager reading from a script. The irony was almost beautiful. Owen had fired me to cut costs and improve efficiency. Instead, he'd triggered an exodus that would cost the company millions and birth a competitor that knew all their weak points. I need to think about it, I said, though I already knew my answer. Of course. I've emailed you the preliminary proposal. Take a few days. But Zoe. Adrienne's voice softened slightly. These people went to bat for you. That doesn't happen often in this industry. Whatever you decide, know that you built something real. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time staring at the email attachment. The proposal was detailed, professional, generous. Everything I'd been denied at my old company, respect, autonomy, recognition, was being offered on a silver platter. Outside my window, the city moved on like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a cog in someone else's machine, disposable and unappreciated. Now I had a chance to build my own machine on my own terms. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Owen just got called into the CEO's office. Building is in full crisis mode. What did you do? I smiled and typed back. I didn't do anything. I just stopped holding everything together. Hashtag day 7. The reckoning. By the following Monday, the situation had deteriorated beyond repair. Sentinel's logs showed 12 major accounts had now either suspended contracts or initiated termination proceedings. The company's quarterly revenue projections had been slashed by 40%. And Owen Harper, the man who'd confidently declared he knew what he was doing, was fighting for his professional life. I learned this not from Sentinel but from a very unexpected phone call. Zoe? This is Leonard Finch. The CEO himself, the man who'd introduced Owen 3 weeks ago with such enthusiasm. Mr. Finch. I'm calling to apologize. And to ask if there's any way to undo this situation. I let the silence stretch for a moment. Undo which part? The firing? The lack of communication with clients? The assumption that 11 years of relationship building could be transferred like office supplies. All of it. He sounded tired. Owen assured me the transition would be seamless. He said your accounts were properly documented, that any competent manager could maintain them. He was incorrect. He was arrogant, I corrected. There's a difference. Yes. I'm seeing that now. Pause. We'd like to offer you your position back. With a significant raise and a formal apology to all affected clients. I closed my eyes. 3 weeks ago this call would have been everything I wanted. Vindication. Recognition. Proof that I mattered. Now it felt hollow. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Finch. But I've received another opportunity. One where I won't be seen as redundant or expendable. Where the relationships I build are valued, not treated as transferable assets. The consulting firm. He'd obviously heard. With our former clients. With people who trust me. Yes. Another long pause. I understand. For what it's worth, this wasn't what I intended when I brought Owen on board. He came with impressive credentials. Credentials aren't the same as wisdom, I said. Or basic human decency. No. They're not. He sighed. I wish you success, Zoe. And I'm sorry we failed you. After I hung up, I felt something release in my chest. A knot of anger and hurt I'd been carrying since that meeting in conference room B. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need validation from the company that had discarded me. I just needed to move forward. That evening I called Adrienne Cross. I'm in. Let's build this. Hashtag 3 months later. The office wasn't fancy. Just 3,000 square feet in a renovated building downtown, with good light and enough room for the team I was building. 10 employees so far, including Natalie, who jumped ship the moment I made her an offer. We called the company Anchor Solutions. Because that's what we did. We anchored relationships, provided stability, kept things from drifting apart. The first 3 months were chaos. Setting up systems, negotiating contracts, learning to be a CEO instead of an account manager. But it was my chaos. My decisions. My vision. And the clients? They were thriving. Jonathan's implementation that had been stalled for weeks at my old company? We completed it in 3 weeks. Catherine's contract renewal that had been on hold? She signed a 5-year extension with us. Raymond, who'd been so frustrated with the lack of communication. He referred 2 new clients to us. One afternoon I got an unexpected email. The subject line made me pause. Following up. It was from Owen Harper. Asterisk Zoe, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following the success of Anchor Solutions with interest. I wanted to reach out personally to acknowledge that I made significant errors in judgment during my time at Apex Strategies. My approach to restructuring was too aggressive and didn't account for the intangible value of long-term relationships. I've since learned that lesson, albeit the hard way. I'm reaching out because I'm currently exploring new opportunities and wondered if you might be open to a conversation about potential collaboration. I believe my strategic planning experience could complement your relationship management strengths. Asterisk. I read it 3 times, feeling emotions I couldn't quite name. Disbelief. Amusement. A touch of anger. He wanted a job. After everything, Owen Harper wanted me to hire him. I started typing several responses, each more cutting than the last. Then I deleted them all and wrote something simpler. Asterisk Owen, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm not currently hiring for positions that match your background. However, I'll keep your information on file should that change. Best of luck in your search. Asterisk. Professional. Neutral. Final. I didn't owe him cruelty. But I didn't owe him opportunity either. Some bridges once burned stay burned. That evening I stood at the office window watching the city lights blink to life. Behind me the team was wrapping up their work, laughing about something Natalie had said, making plans for happy hour. My phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. Asterisk board meeting went great. They're excited about the Q4 expansion. Couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for not giving up on us. Asterisk. I smiled. Because that was the thing Owen had never understood. This was never about me not giving up on them. It was about them not giving up on me. On the wall behind my desk hung a framed print. Not inspirational corporate nonsense. Just a simple sentence I'd written on a post-it note during my first week. Asterisk, trust isn't a line item. It's the whole foundation. Asterisk. They tried to make me redundant. They'd calculated my value in overhead costs and salary expenses. They'd assumed relationships could be transferred like files in a database. They'd been wrong. And now, standing in an office I'd built from the ashes of my old career, surrounded by people who'd chosen to follow me into uncertainty, I understood something fundamental. Being fired wasn't the end of my story. It was just the moment I stopped letting someone else write it. My phone buzzed again. This time, a news alert. Apex Strategies announces second quarter losses, leadership shakeup expected. I didn't feel vindictive. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free. Because while they were busy restructuring and damage controlling and trying to explain to shareholders why their revenue had collapsed, I was building something better. Something real. Something that understood the difference between assets on a spreadsheet and humans who trust you. Owen Harper had called me a freeloader. He'd said I was redundant, expendable, easily replaced. He'd looked at 11 years of work and seen nothing worth keeping. He'd been spectacularly, expensively, catastrophically wrong. And the best part? I didn't have to destroy him to prove it. He'd managed that perfectly well on his own. I turned away from the window and headed home, leaving the lights of Anchor Solutions glowing behind me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new clients, new opportunities to prove that relationships matter more than org charts. But tonight I was just going to make dinner, pour a glass of wine, and appreciate the simple fact that I'd survived the worst professional moment of my life and come out the other side stronger. They tried to erase me. Instead they'd freed me. And I'd never been more grateful for a cardboard box and 30 minutes to clear my desk. The end.